right, baby. It's playoff time.
Playoffs?
Yes, it's playoff time.
Playoffs?
All right, Jim, that's enough. Settle down. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first round of the LEG playoffs for the 2024 fantasy football season. It is that time of the year. I'm your commish, John David Brake, and we are going to break down this week's first round of playoffs. And unfortunately, Adam Barris did not make it in. Here's the bracket for the playoff seeds. As you saw a couple weeks ago, I clinched the #1 overall seed, thus getting a bye. Austin Stoll held on to the #2 seed barely by getting a win and almost outscored. We joked about it last week with Joe that he could catch him, and he almost did. That would have been crazy. But we've got Abby and Dan and Joe and Jabel. It's going to be a great playoffs. These are stacked teams. Jabel, the only team in the postseason without a championship victory. So, unless Jabel wins at all, a guaranteed repeat champion to happen again. So, let's cut the chase. Let's go right to this week's playoff matchups for round 1 of the LEG TV playoffs. We're going to start with Abalash Reddy taking on Dan Nickel. That's real. Those graphics are terrible. That's right. Abby versus Dan, former multi-champions. Dan Nickel, a 3-time champion. Abby, a 2-time back-to-back champion. Facing off against each other, the 5 seed and the 4 seed. The winner of this game should play myself in the second round. So they're waiting for that buzzsaw in round 2. But let's break down the rosters here. We're going to take a real in-depth look at who's playing this week, who's starting, and what player it's going to take to get that person over the edge. Right now, Yahoo has Abby projected to beat Dan. We have live projections right now because this wasn't up on Thursday when the Niners got eliminated from the playoffs pretty much. But Abby is projected to win. Let's see why. Obviously, Joe Burrow has been his bread and butter. They've got nothing to play for other than pride. Puka and A.J. Brown at the wide receiver position. Joe Mixon, Brian Robinson Jr., a strong running back duo. The weak spot, the tight end, Cole Kmet, going up against the Minnesota Vikings on Monday night. And he did rock Isaac Rendo, who turned in about what was expected. He got 11 points, nothing super fancy there in the flex. And then you saw Puka did not meet projection, but only by a point. So close enough, 97 receiving yards off of seven balls, and he ran the ball for 11 yards. So on this roster, really what it's going to come down to for Abby to hold on to this projection to win, I'm seeing A.J. Brown all over the place here. A.J. Brown, there's discussions about him and Jalen Hurts not getting along. This is a must for A.J. Brown to perform for Abby to hold on, because I'm going to go over Dan's roster, and there's a lot of good players there. But they need to get the big name, the big receiver, the big guy going, especially with Dallas Goedert out now for the season. You should see some more targets his way. If he gets in that 20-point range, I think this is a no-brainer for Abby. But let's go check out Dan Nickel's roster here. Dan, who is rocking Russ Wilson. He's letting it cook, baby. The only person in this playoff without a top 10 quarterback is Dan Nickel. That's why the quarterback is such an important position in this league. Pairing with Tyreek Hill and T. Higgins as the wide receiver, I already give the tilt to Abby for the receivers versus AJ and Puka. David Montgomery and Kyron Williams are also a solid combination. Just a little, I give Abby the edge in the running backs with Mixon and Robinson, but Kyron Williams, he got a point over his projection a bit, basically. So, he didn't let you down. That's a good floor. David Montgomery, though, he could go off. TJ Hawkinson, also a player that's a complete wild card. Could go 10, could go 5, could go 20. We don't know. It's too hard to call, but I'm guessing it's probably going to be around 10 to 15 points. And they're in the flex, DK Metcalf, and that's the spot I'm looking at for Dan. DK's been kind of disappointing lately. DK Metcalf, if he comes out and has a huge game against the Green Bay Packers on that Sunday night game, now it's in Seattle, and DK Metcalf is healthy-ish now, so hopefully that means he is going to return to DK form, and if he is in that 25-point range. I think that's what Dan's going to need to get over the hump, because a lot of these matchups are pretty close. The quarterback I give to Abby, wide receivers I give to Abby, running back kind of a wash-ish, especially with not so big projections, and the tight end I like Dan, and the flex I like Dan with DK, but he's going to need DK to perform to win this one. So my final prediction for this game to take on the #1 overall seed is Ablash ready. That's right. I think Ablash is going to win this, and I do not want to play Abby because he has a scary good team when they are all clicking on all cylinders. So we got that out of the way. Let's go to the other playoff match, and then we'll get to the Hoffa Bowl contestants and find out who's going to get in that one. It is Jable Soul's Modelo Virus taking on number 3 seed Joe Murdoch, who has been on an absolute heater as of late. Another very scary team to face in these playoffs. One of these teams most likely to play Austin Stoll in the second round. So let's take a look at that pretty stacked Joe Murdoch roster there. Josh Allen. I mean, he's not probably going to put up another 50 points, but that is going to be a game against Detroit in a dome against the Lions tomorrow at 4:25. And look at these receivers. Adam Thielen, Cortland Sutton. That's your wide receiver 1 and 2. Well, guess what? Those are a really good wide receiver 1 and 2 as of late, because Joe is all about the running backs. He has traditionally always been a running back guy, and it shows with Josh Jacobs, Alvin Kamara, and Jonathan Taylor in the flex. And Jonathan Taylor is the worst running back out of those 3. Crazy to think. Definitely a strong running back core. And then Jonnu Smith, the tight end, who has been solid. Didn't have that great of a game until overtime last week, but Jonnu Smith has been a solid safety net for Tua there in Miami. And on this roster, whew, boy, it's hard to pick one, but really, I think Adam Thielen is the key for Joe here. He is projected to win. Live projections have him winning big, 172 to 153. He did get some points out of Fred Warner there, 12.5, which was nice. So that is currently trending above projections. But Adam Thielen is the key to Joe to hold off Jable Soul's team. I think Adam Thielen could be, again, have another like 20-point game. I mean, he's been unbelievable since he's gotten back from surgery. Bryce Young's favorite target, by the way, and he's just been phenomenal there as always. Let's go over to Jable's roster. Let's look at the QB. Jaden Daniels, not Josh Allen. I definitely give Joe the advantage there. I'm going to be honest, I almost would start Bo Nix this week, but that's just me. We shall see. The wide receivers, obviously the #1 overall wide receiver, Jamar Chase. That's a no-brainer there. And Khalil Shakir in that Detroit game. Detroit gives up a lot of points to wide receivers. There could be a conflict of interest here with Josh Allen for Joe and Khalil Shakir for Jable. The running backs, I do not like Jable's running backs. They pale in comparison, and this is eventually probably going to hurt Jable here unless he gets some big production elsewhere. Tyrone Tracy against the Ravens. Ramondre Stevenson against Arizona, maybe. I don't know. Sam Laporta, boy, he's been up and down. Definitely not the Sam Laporta of the rookie year. And Jordan Addison, boy, has he been a big surprise in Minnesota. Obviously Justin Jefferson was going to be awesome, but who knew that Jordan Addison would just be a great complimentary receiver there for Sam Darnold, having an amazing year for the Minnesota Vikings. So looking at this roster, Jable's got to get a great performance from Sam Laporta, the tight end. He needs Sam to show up against Buffalo. Buffalo's pretty good against tight ends. They need a big game from him. I need Jable to have Sam Laporta score 25 points, at least, maybe 30. He's got to get near 30 to pull off this upset over Joe at the 6th seed. Unfortunately, Big Jabowski, I don't see it happening, my man. I think Joe is going to take it, and that's going to lead to a very spicy matchup, Austin versus Joe in round 2. But I could be wrong, but I think this is Joe's week. So that is the first round of the playoffs. Now keep in mind, we are keeping an eye on the Hoffa Bowl. The loser of the Dahlgren-Nick Shook game will play the loser of the Mick-Dave Plow game. Yes, that's right. Dahlgren, Nick, Mick, and Plow are all in Hoffa Bowl contention. So we will review the Hoffa Bowl next week. I cannot wait to see who is bringing that smelly, stinky award home or keeping it home, which is probably what's going to happen. Sorry, Nick. All right, that is this week's playoff prediction. Good luck to everyone who's in it. Sorry for all just sitting and not in it, but we appreciate your participation in watching this video. Be sure to hit that like button, smash that subscribe button here. I don't know if people still do that anymore, but yes, we will see you next week for round 2 of the LEG playoffs.